Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I thought the other day, with there being essentially two classic F1 cars in the game, the McLaren MP4-4 and what is essentially the Lotus Renault 97T from 1985, I thought why not pit them together and see which one provides the best bang for the buck and which one really is the ultimate Formula 1 car of Gran Turismo 7. So you may be thinking, well, Lotus isn't in Gran Turismo, and it's not. So essentially, the Gran Turismo F1500 TA, the fantasy F1 car, is essentially based on a Senna-driven 97T, the Lotus Renault from 1985. Basically, a big signing for Lotus back then was getting the upcoming Senna into their car. So it kind of got cemented as kind of his real breakthrough. That car, it was not as successful as the MP4-4, however it was still kind of successful, taking I believe 3 wins and finishing level in the constructors with Williams at the time for 4th place and 3rd place. So let's take a look at the Lotus stats. So the only thing they've really got wrong here was the max power output. Now, I believe F1 cars at the time weren't putting out quite that. They were close, but not quite 900, nearly 1,000 brake horsepower. So yeah, a little bit off there. So it's kind of a little bit inflated. But let's go through the stats anyway. So overall PP for this car is 916.29. It's got a max power of 986 brake horsepower. The torque is 67.1. The weight is 540 kilogram, which is correct, and it is obviously turbocharged. It will cost you 1 million credits from the Gran Turismo dealer, so a fair price for a lot of performance from this car. So no complaints in there. Obviously the power's just a little bit off from what the car is based on, but we'll see how it really does. So this one doesn't really need an introduction. It's the McLaren MP4-4 from 1988, brought with update 1.20. It's going to cost you a whopping 8 million credits. Now you're going to notice the performance points are actually lower than the Lotus. Now part of that is because for some reason this car runs on mediums as standard, so I have set it over to softs to make it a little bit more fair, which is going to take it up to about 905, something like that. So let's have a look. So displacement is, it's put a 1.5 turbocharged engine, a max power of 675 brake horsepower, so around about 300 less than the Lotus. Weight is the exact same at 540 kilograms. So I'm expecting, in terms of, you know, outright pace, that possibly the Lotus may be quicker in a straight line, and the McLaren, well, I've got a feeling it might be a little bit better through the corners. So our 20 car grid was set. We have 10 McLarens, 10 Lotuses, so let's see how it went. So it's looking like early doors, the Lotus has very, very good acceleration, and it is going to reach a higher top speed. Now, as you can see, the Lotuses are pretty much shot out, and they are going to take 1, 2 and 3 respectively going into the first corner. However, the McLaren is going to try and fight that one back. We are in this race, we're starting at the back to kind of make it fair. Max difficulty settings are on, so you know, trying to make it as difficult as possible. However, we will come through to, you know, hopefully win this race. We'll find out towards the end. So as we go on board the Lotus, as you can see, in terms of its acceleration, it's very, very quick out of corners. It does seem to, however, drop back a bit into the McLarens when it comes to cornering, or sort of cornering speeds. So there you go, we've got a McLaren making a move in the braking zone and around the corner. So again, it's looking kind of like my theory is correct. One thing I did kind of notice when I was racing alongside some of these Lotuses is that the turbo lag on them is very extreme, even compared to the MP4-4. So, you know, you can really hear it sort of like put its power down, it will spin its wheels, and the turbo will take an absolute year to kick in. It just seems to take forever, as we are now getting side by side with one of the Lotuses. So yeah, we're through up a position there. So let's go on board with myself and see where we're at. We're in about P11 here, and this is the trouble with the AI, okay? It's never going to be 100% accurate because the AI are very slow and very dumb. So I've essentially tried to make the AI as powerful as possible. They're on the hardest difficulty and all that good stuff. However, they are still very, very easy to beat. So hopefully when the Sophie AI comes in, we'll see a huge improvement in that terms, and we can get some pretty, more accurate results. So as you can see, I'm in with a bunch of McLarens there, and we are going to get that move done. So when I was driving the McLaren, one thing I did notice that it seemed to be that the McLaren was able to kind of outbrake the Lotuses. It was able to carry more cornering speed. In terms of acceleration, once that turbo kicked in for the Lotuses, they were able to just get alongside you, pretty much instantly, and pretty much outpace you. So I was very kind of cautious that I was going to kind of make most of my time up in the corners and under braking. That's where I wanted to get most of my moves done, unless I was running in the slipstream and the opportunity arose, which as you can see, it's going to basically happen here. We're going to get in the slipstream of the Lotus. We're going to pull out of it. We're pretty much side by side. So the Lotus, again, just using that speed to stay ahead, but however, he has overshot that corner, nearly gone into the back of another McLaren, so he's going to lose that position. But like you can see, once that boost, that turbo kicks in, that Lotus Renault just absolutely shoots forward at ridiculous speed. So I'm a bit of a disadvantage there as soon as we get on the straights. Just like all the other McLarens, all cars are obviously running soft tyres with a standard setup. I didn't want to make it unfair. I wanted to leave both cars in their standard form. So let's have a look at the leader, and as you can see, this thing flies down the straights. However, when it comes to getting the speed down, it seems to be like it has to brake a lot earlier, and you have to be very, very careful putting the power down. And then when it comes to the corners, it's almost as if they just can't put the power down in fear of either sort of lighting up the rear tyres and spinning it round, or the insane turbo lag that these cars have. So I'm kind of picking my battles here. I'm kind of in, as you can see, I'm in a corner, and I'm hoping to try and get him on the run out, but the acceleration of those Lotuses really just kicks in, but then again you've got the early braking of the Lotus, so it's a bit of a difficult one to do. He's going to cover off the inside here, so he's going to make it hard work. I can't really get the move done there. I'm going to try and chase him up the hill, but again, the acceleration on this Lotus, there you go, when the turbo lag stops, it's going to go, and go it does. So we're going to hopefully get him out of the corner through here. We're going to have to run in the slipstream and try and do what we did again. We're alongside, but it's looking like the Lotus is just ahead until we get to the braking zone, in which case we can brake later and go around the outside. So we're just chasing down the leader now, and it's going to be pretty easy, to be honest, because the AI just doesn't seem to know when to, how to take this corner. I don't know if it's a programming issue or what, but they seem very, very slow into that corner. So we're going to go around the outside and into P1 quite comfortably. You can also see in the background there was another McLaren and a Lotus battling it there. So currently we have a Lotus in P2 with myself in P1. We have a McLaren in P3, but there you go, there's the speed of the Lotuses. You've got two of them catching the McLaren now. Is he going to be able to hold off? It's looking like he's done just that. So we've got a Lotus P4, Lotus P5. In P6 we've got a McLaren. P7 we've got a Lotus, and then behind it we've got a couple of McLarens. So we've got another McLaren there. In P8, P9, P10 is a Lotus, P11 is a Lotus, P12 is a Lotus, P13 is a Lotus, and P14 is a Lotus. Back to the McLarens at P15, back to the Lotus at P16, and then it looks like there's a bunch of McLarens at the back. So all in all, it was actually very close racing, but it's looking like in terms of position advantage that the Lotus has the advantage in that term. So it's looking like the Lotus is outperforming the McLaren overall, as we're just trying to stretch our lead on this lap here. So I think it was mainly the same all the way around. It was just sort of the McLarens would make the time up in the corners, and then as soon as they got onto like a decent sized straight where the Lotus could stretch its legs, it was just off and either catching them, overtaking them, or it was just quite difficult for the McLarens really to do much unless they're running in a slipstream. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool to see the differences. It's sort of like, well, which one is, I guess we could say, circuit dependent. So if you've got a circuit with a lot of straights, you're probably better using the Lotus. If you've got really tight and twisty circuits, I'd recommend the McLaren. And I have noticed, like myself, when it comes to the feeling through the corners, having driven both of these cars, the McLaren is definitely the more stable and faster to kind of, you know, get through those corners. The brakes are also much better. I don't find the brakes too good on the Lotuses. So we're going to have a look on a few onboard shots. As you can see, the Lotus just chasing down a McLaren here, but the McLaren again is just a bit quicker through the corners, as it's sticking pretty well there with the Lotus. So I'm pretty surprised at that. But again, you're going to get on a bit of a straight, and you're going to see that that Lotus is just absolutely shot off, and this one's going to get on the back of the McLaren just as, you know, just a touch closer. So nothing kind of major there. It's obviously not the biggest of straights, and then again it's going to come down onto a bigger straight and start catching, especially with the slipstream there. So yeah, to be expected really. You're sort of seeing what I've basically explained in terms of differences in these cars. The turbo lag there kicking in for the Lotus. So we're going to round out this race as we've got our last few corners to go. This is the no chicane layout of Barcelona, like you probably all know, and we are going to take a pretty comfortable win in the end, all the way from last place. I do kind of wish the AI was a little bit more challenging. Sadly they're not, but a win nonetheless. Okay, so I did this on a point systems from, you know, 20 points for first, 1 point for last, and yeah, you might be a bit surprised by the results, or you may not be. So as you can see, this is the final finishing results, but you know, which one do you really think is going to come out on top? Well, let's find out. So with 116 points, the Lotus Renault 97T did take the win. Now it's a bit surprising, and I feel like it could be track dependent. I feel like, in my personal opinion, I would use the McLaren for tighter tracks and the Lotus for more, I guess, long straight tracks, just for that superior top speed. However, the main kick in the teeth really is the price difference. So it's 1 million for this, and it's 8 million for the MP4-4. I feel like the McLaren may be more of a sort of buying it because of how legendary it really is in terms of F1. I think for performance, you should probably stick with this one here. Who knows? It's a little bit disheartening when you feel like, you know, you put so much money out on a car and it's getting outshone by a car that's been in there since day one. The McLaren did end up with 94 points in the end, so yeah, it wasn't as close as I hoped. However, it's a very legendary car, like I said, in terms of Formula One and obviously Senna. It's absolutely iconic, and I feel like that is the main reason people should go ahead and buy this car, purely for that. Yeah, it's a truly special car. I mean, both essentially are. I mean, if you've got one running the Lotus and one running the McLaren liveries, then, you know, it's going to feel cool either way. So, I mean, personally, in terms of performance, you have to go with the Lotus. But in terms of my heart, well, nothing's going to match that McLaren, is it really? So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers, guys. Peace.